Welcome to Adobe Animate CC. In this first video, we're going to start talking about getting started, the basic controls, and the general layout of this new software. Now, whenever you first open the software, this is going to be the first thing that you see. This is where you get to choose the type of project that you have, or if you have any other projects that you've already been working on, they're going to be listed here. Mac people, this might be a separate window, but PC people, this is what you're going to see exactly. Where we're going to start is with a new document. We're going to choose the mode Action Script 3. It's right here in the middle. You can go ahead and click on that. First thing you'll notice is we get this big white rectangle pop up in front of us. You'll also see that some of these other options on the side and the bottom of our screen are starting to fill out. Now, the first thing I want to do in the video is I want to start to talk about the notes and how your notes relate to what we're actually looking at here in the software. So the very first thing from your notes is the stage. If you guessed that this big white rectangle in the middle was the stage, you'd be correct. This is just like the artboard in Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop. What I like about this one is it's more like the Illustrator one in the fact that you can draw all over it, but you can also draw out here in the negative space as well. And you'll be doing that a lot in this software. You're going to be creating characters and things and putting them off to the side and only using them at certain instances. So having this extra space is going to do you a lot of help. Down at the bottom, moving on, this is the timeline. You can see it looks kind of like the timeline for Premiere. The numbers are an awful lot more simple. We have layers now instead of tracks or versus, audio and video channels. If we want to make new layers, we can click the new button down here. We can also trash them with the trash can. We can rename layers. And then over here, looking at the actual timeline, you're going to see these simple numbers. Now, these don't represent seconds. They represent frames. If we go down here, you can see in this light gray spot here, it says 24 FPS. That's 24 frames a second. So this is just your early reminder, saying again that for animation, you operate at 24 frames a second right here on your timeline from 1 to 24. That is 1 frame or 1 second of animation. Next thing from your notes, we have the Property Inspector and the Library window. Right here, you can see the two tabs, Property and Library. The Property Inspector is this whole column right here. Depending on the tool that you use, depending on what you click on, you can see that the Property Inspector is changing. It's giving you different options depending on what you click on. Some of the options might have to deal with color, stroke, shape, size, so on and so forth. Some of them might have to do with font, and again, color, size, stroke, and all that other stuff. But they are different depending on the tool. So make sure that whenever you have a tool selected that you're paying attention to the options that you're actually being given. If you switch over to the Library tab, there's nothing in here just yet because I haven't created anything, but once you start creating solid objects and symbols, you can add them to your library and you can recall them from this area. So real quick, I'm not going to explain it, but I'm going to create the symbol out of this jellyfish, and I'm just going to call it jelly. Hit OK, and you're going to see it appeared here, and now we have something called jelly in our library. So if I wanted to, I could drag and drop. And the last thing we're going to talk about real quick is your toolbar. Now, most of these tools, you have an idea of what they do. You have your selection tool, your sub-selection tool. That's like the selection tool and the direct select tool from Adobe Illustrator. This little guy here is free transform, which you should remember from Photoshop. Instead of hitting Control-T, you can click on this button. You can stretch and squash things. You have your lasso tool, and then you've got different forms of lasso. You also have your magic wand from Photoshop. That's in here. We're going to skip the 3D tool. We're not going to do anything 3D quite yet. You got your pen tool, type tool, you got lines, some basic shapes, you got your pencil, you have the paintbrush tool, and then you have the brush tool. Don't get these two confused. I'm going to tell you right up front, don't use the paintbrush tool. Just use the regular brush tool. That's what I've used so far to do the painting that I've done over here. This one's going to be the better one. The bone tool, we're going to talk about that more later. We have the paint bucket, which, good news for those of you who like Microsoft Paint, you can go in and you can paint in shapes on things. There we go, there's one. You have to have a complete line drawing. There's a gap here at the bottom, and these are symbols, so I can't modify them anymore. But you also have your eyedropper to select colors, you have your eraser, and you've got some other stuff that we're going to talk about later. This is your option for stroke, looks like a pencil. This is your option for fill down here, looks like a paint bucket. All right, so that's going to be it for my first video. If you didn't understand anything, please go back and watch it over again, or raise your hand, ask me to come over and ask me some questions.